If you're sensitive, intuitive, or spiritual, you're probably feeling the world more intensely right now. And there's a reason for that. Hi, I'm Steph. I blend crystals, tarot, and soul-led coaching to help sensitive, overwhelmed women come back to themselves without guilt or pressure. If that sounds interesting to you, then stick around, you're probably in the right place. There's a reason sensitive people feel the shift first. I'll explain a little bit more in a moment. Now, as we look around, you no doubt by now have seen all the things happening in the world. You know, the war going on between the US and Israel versus Iran and the other countries that are also being affected by it directly, like with ordinances landing within their country, even though they've got ostensibly nothing to do with the conflict. The fallout from that being the rising fuel costs. I know here in Australia, it has been awful. We're now paying a heck of a lot more for fuel, and there also have been fuel shortages. So what that means then is people are either stockpiling, a bit like when we had COVID and people were getting lots of toilet paper and all the frozen veggies and all the non-perishable like pantry items and things like that. Folks were stockpiling. Folks have been doing that as well with fuel. And when places have been running out or they've had to ration it, it's made people really angry. You know, we've got nothing to do with this conflict going on, I don't think. And here we are, you know, also sort of being affected by it. But that's the thing. That's, you know, all that surface stuff. But I feel like sensitive people, we have been feeling that, or feeling like an undercurrent, or feeling like there's just something else, and there's been a bit of a heaviness, a bit of a tower moment. If you're familiar with the tarot, you've got the Tower card. It's one of the major arcana cards, and in that part of the Fool's journey or the hero's journey and things, this is where everything that they had known, or all the structural systems that they felt were, this is the way that it is, this is how it's always been, you know, that sort of feeling, all of that comes crashing down. And it's an opportunity to then rebuild, to really examine what's going on. But while that is crashing, while the people are falling out of the tower, while the tower's on fire, while everybody looks like they're screaming, it's hard to actually feel grounded. It is so hard to actually feel like you are having some semblance of control, or, you know, like you're not getting pushed along by the tide. It's basically collective grief. And that term in itself basically just kind of showed that we're all kind of grieving for perhaps what was, or what's changing, you know, what's different. Something has shifted. And that's what we're actually grieving, that change process. Grief shows up when our worldview starts to fall apart. But there's actually a difference between fear and grief, even though they sometimes feel like they might actually be the same. So why is there this underlying sense of grief underneath the chaos? Well, in a way, you're losing your sense of safety, certainty, or maybe innocence. You know, it can kind of bring this feeling of helplessness as well when we see things that we are just unable to rationalize in our minds. Like, how can that be? How can people treat each other like that? How can you come to that conclusion and think that that's a good way to move forward? You know, it's especially when you see cruelty is systematized. You know, in things like ICE, the war, the corruption, the dehumanization, when we're not seeing other people as other people, people just like ourselves, with different names, with different meat suits, with different goals, with different dreams, with different family members. But at the core, we're all still people. When you can't see other people treating others like people, that can bring some of that grief or that helplessness and that yearning for a time when people perhaps did treat others nicer and better and things like that. It feels like it actually hurts more because the cause is something external to us, especially when it's been done intentionally. It's not some kind of natural disaster like when a fire rips through the place. Again, in Australia, we get bushfires. So when a bushfire rips through somewhere, it is absolutely devastating. But there's a sense of, okay, you know what? It's summer. This is sometimes what has happened despite all the precautions people have taken. But then when you find out that that fire was actually deliberately lit, and then it went through and just wreaked so much havoc on communities, and people have lost their homes, their livestock, their livelihood. Some people have even lost their lives. And then to find out that it was actually deliberately lit just adds this extra level of heartbreak. And in the same kind of manner, this collective grief, this collective feeling of like, what the heck is going on? This overwhelm, this exhaustion, this heaviness. It's kind of the same in a way. You sort of feel both overstimulated and understimulated at the same time, and also feel like you just got empathy fatigue. It is so hard to sometimes still be able to stand with others when you yourself feel so depleted. And it's not great. And the twist in this is that grief isn't meant to make you collapse. It's meant to wake you up to what actually matters. How does that even work? The heaviness that you're feeling is the grief. It's not fear. And later on, I'll give you one sentence that will help you to stop that overwhelm instantly. So why do sensitive souls feel it first? Well, our nervous systems actually track threats at a societal level, not just a personal, individual level. We're wired to detect emotional tone when it shifts before you actually have a visible cue for it. I don't know how it really works. You just kind of get a sense or a feeling like you're just kind of picking up on vibes that nobody else is kind of picking up at that point. Or maybe not many people are picking up at that point. And you're just like, I'm feeling this. Why am I feeling this? Or I'm getting this impression. Why am I getting that impression? We have intuitive pattern recognition. We can actually see the power imbalances, the moral decay, the collective fear, because we've recognized the patterns somewhere deep inside of us. We know that that the pattern has changed, and we can sense that. It's not a flaw, it's biological, and it's a spiritual function for us. It's like empaths work as kind of energetic tuning forks. You remember those tuning forks for in music class or something, where you'd like ding and it'll just vibrate, this fork will vibrate and it'll be a specific pitch. And if whatever instrument it was that you were trying to tune to that same pitch, you would listen, you'd ding the fork, and then you'd listen, and then you'd try and tune your instrument, you'd twang on that guitar string, or you'll, you'd then try and match them up. so that they both sound the same, then you knew that you had that specific frequency. It's kind of like that. When you've got a lot of empathy, or you consider yourself an empath or a highly sensitive person or something like that, you kind of are the tuning fork. You're picking up those vibrations in the same way that when you ding the musical tuning fork, your ear is picking up those vibrations to make that specific sound. You're kind of like a multi-fork. You're getting all of that information coming through. So that's why you can feel unsafe, even though life feels like it's perfectly fine, and it just appears like it's perfectly fine. Now, there's this huge misconception about light workers, and it keeps many, many people stuck. We will get to that, but first let's run into the whole 3D, 5D reality thing. So if you've been around any of the intuitive insights or psychic predictions, or just any of this kind of new age space, you can sometimes hear people talking about the 3D moving into the 5D and things like that. And I don't know about you, but I actually found it pretty confusing, because I'm like, what the heck is 3D? What is 5D? Like, I mean, 3D is three-dimensional, but everything is three-dimensional to me, I think. I don't know. I'm thinking about it not in that kind of energetic term. So I had to look it up. So what 3D is survival, competition, separation, and having power over. So yeah, it is our normal day-to-day living, where what you see is what there is. And if you can't see it, you can't experience it, you can't touch it, those sorts of things. If you can't use your physical body senses, then it mustn't be real, or, something like that. Those being the most important things, like, like your continued survival, going to work, earning money, paying for somewhere to live, fuel in your car, food to eat, having people around you that you care about, that sort of thing. That's where I think that 3D life actually sits in. So then there's the 4D, which is when you actually start to awaken. You've kind of gone through like a spiritual awakening. You've started to question your beliefs. You've started to question the world around you. You've started to think, is this all there is, or is there something more? You're looking into shadow work. You're looking into, well, what are the things that I am frustrated with about other people? Are they reflections of myself? Am I projecting? Are there things that I don't want to deal with? Like I find examining some of the beliefs from your childhood and trying to work out, is that something that I actually believe, or is that something that I've received from the people I grew up around, and does that still hold true? Like that sort of stuff. It is a transition kind of phase. And then 5D, when they talk about that, it brings in words like unity consciousness, compassion, co-creation, sovereignty. So that sort of means that we all start to see that, we are one. We might be many, but we are all people. We all are aspects of maybe the divine. Maybe we are all part of like who was it now? Carl Jung, I think it was, came up with the collective unconscious, and it's actually realizing that everyone and everything perhaps is connected, but not necessarily in a way that you can rationally sort of realize. And yeah, so that's kind of that 3D, 5D, all of that sort of jazz. Where sensitive people come in is that we sort of stand with one foot in each world in a way. I know you've only got 2 feet, but most of us are kind of we're in that 3D space where we are still going to work, we're still trying to figure out how we're going to pay our bills, or what the next step is for us career-wise, or things like that, where you're going to send the kids to school, what you're going to eat for dinner, that sort of thing. But yet we're also either in that kind of 4D phase where we are awakening, or maybe we're already sort of closer to that 5D phase where we have this strong desire inside to just really connect with others and to be able to kind of share some love in a way, to be able to just ease some of that burden and be able to say, hey, you're a person, I'm a person, let's be people, in a way that just meets someone at that soul deep level rather than the surface stuff. So it's uncomfortable, but it can actually be transformative. So people sometimes think that light workers are here to save the day. When you've heard light workers, oh, they're the ones that are connected to spirituality and, all of that. Well, there is a bit of that kind of, savior kind of in there. Sorry for my bad singing. But, that kind of angelic, oh, they're light, they're so good, they're going to come and save us all. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. People that identify as light workers or have been told that they are light workers, your job, my job, is not to fix the conflict, the politics, the corruption. We're not here to fix. We're not here to carry the pain. We're not here to carry the world's pain. Our shoulders are only so broad. They can only hold so much in this physical body. We're also not meant to be staying super informed, hyper informed, and therefore overwhelmed with everything. When you are delving down the rabbit holes of information that is available, because I love technology. We have so much access to knowledge and opportunities and news, and we can connect with people all over the world. It is incredible. However, when you go down some of those rabbit holes and you then get overwhelmed and stuck sometimes inside echo chambers that just make you feel so awful, make you feel so frustrated or angry and otherwise just not like yourself. When you are overwhelmed by just the awful, heartbreaking news that you see, about people dying and people suffering and the injustice and inhumanity that is going on in parts of the world, and that also just really hurts you at a soul level, and then you become so immobilized by that. That is not what you're here for. That is not what I'm here for. Our role is actually a lot more simpler than that. We anchor coherence in a world addicted to chaos. That is what a light worker does. What does that mean? When the collective is spinning, we ground. When a system dehumanizes, you rehumanize. You make eye contact, you smile, you acknowledge the humanity in another person. You see people, other beings that you don't know, as people. When hatred rises, you model compassion. You don't have to go out of your way constantly, but you can smile, you can open a door, you can listen when a person tells you stuff. Like, I don't know, are you one of those people like me where if you're by yourself, often, say you're on a train or you're just doing your shopping or something like that, strangers will sometimes just talk to you, and sometimes they will tell you some deeply personal stuff, and you're just like, okay, I don't know what to do with this information that you're telling me. I don't even know why you're telling me it. What we can do in that moment is to just listen, because sometimes that is just what that person was looking for, was someone to listen. See, and you can do that. You don't need to take it on, but you can listen in that moment. When fear spreads, your nervous system becomes a lighthouse. And that, my friends, is why light workers are not here to save the day. So, with that said then, how do we stay grounded in amongst all of this? You need to remember your role is energetic, not spiritual. Let grief and news pass through you without getting stuck in you. Come back to your regulatory and creative practices. So if you're a person that likes to meditate, who likes to dance, who likes to walk in nature, who likes to clean, or who likes to make things, you might like to paint or draw or sew or knit, any of those sorts of things, come back to doing that and just actively let that energy go. Just let it go. Anchor your body and then your spirit. Sometimes when I'm feeling really overwhelmed and just really like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I am reminded of my dog. Now, I've got an awesome dog. Her name's Rosie. Everybody says that their dog is awesome, but mine's awesome. And she does this cute thing, which, again, every dog and other animals do as well, where they will sometimes do these big stretches, or they'll just kind of shake their body out, and you can almost watch it go from their nose all the way to their tail. And it just looks like it is just so nice and comfortable. They just big shake. So sometimes when I'm feeling just too amped up, I just try that. I just do this big shake. And it might look silly, you can just go into the bathroom at work, or, duck into a quiet little room, or just jump around a little bit, put on a cool song that gets you going, and just kind of do that. Sometimes that's enough to just regulate, and then that excesses of sensation, energy bouncing around my body has moved, and then I can start to actually do my creative something. I can sit there then and do some knitting. I can go back to being on the floor looking after the patients. I can take that moment to just kind of anchor into my body first. Yep, I'm feeling my body. I'm letting go of any of the excess, and then I can go back into the spirit work. Now, remember how I said before that I would give you one sentence that would help to just combat overwhelm? Well, here it is, and I'm going to read it out to you so I don't miss any of the words. I cannot control the world, but I can choose the energy I bring into it. Let's say that again. I cannot control the world, but I choose the energy I bring into it. What this does is it helps you to reclaim your sovereignty. So when you feel like things are well out of your hands, well out of control, you choose how you respond, you choose how you carry that, and you get to choose how you move about the world while all of that is going on. It helps you to bring your nervous system back to center. Helps you to realize what you do have control over. Just because everybody else seems to be having a really bad day doesn't mean that I need to be grumpy as well. I can choose instead to go, you know what? Things sometimes happen. I don't think it's personal. Let's just proceed with kindness. It also is the beginning of that 5D consciousness that we were talking about, that 5D world where it's, let me go back here, that unity consciousness, that compassion, the co-creation and sovereignty. It's an opportunity for us to actually practice that. When we remember that we are in control of our actions and what we choose to think, what we choose to say, how we choose to behave, what we choose to take on. it gives us that opportunity to say, hey, I can choose different. Just because the world might be preaching intolerance doesn't mean I need to be intolerant. Just because the world is preaching hate doesn't mean I need to preach hate. Just because the world is preaching fear doesn't mean that I need to be fearful. I can instead choose how I want to be and how I want to move around this world. Just by remembering, I cannot control the world, but I can choose the energy I bring into it. So we have it. Thanks for spending time with me today. Go and infect your world with kindness, and I shall see you later.